she'll come up with a creative idea, and I'm like, all right, babe, I'm going to bring it back a little bit, because if we put that in front of the builder, you know, he's going to look at you like with cross eyes, like, are you kidding me? Like, you want me to do what? And you want me to do it for what square footage? Like, what's my budget? You know, so
I'm like, listen, I'm the designer, figure it out.
yeah.
Well, very excited for the podcast. We have Wes and Jody Chapman on. Welcome, guys.
Hi, thank you for having
Hey,
us.
man, how are you?
The famous couple from Loft 31 is, ready to entertain us with your presence.
Oh man,
I don't know about
and
famous. Entertain, that's all on her.
Yeah, this might be your worst podcasting history. I think that you chose the worst people to podcast.
No, I mean, Jody just came on. I mean, you just came on saying you're entertaining the world. So we got to start there. I'm not.
All we do is, I get everyone works 24/7, but like in our industry, I think a lot of people think interior design is like, oh, that's so cute, and you fluff pillows for a living. And I'm like, you have no idea. I'm unwell. Like, this is not okay. So we not only are entertaining clients and people in town. I mean, we work, as you know, all over the United States. We have clients in Texas, Arizona, Tennessee, Florida, everywhere. And then we live in Idaho, where a lot of people come up and visit. And so the good thing is we have a ranch, and so we have a lot of clients come and stay at our ranch. So then you're entertaining them on a personal level and a professional level 24/7. And
it's fun. It's fun times.
We're doing great. We just got
great.
done out of like a 3-week 24/7 hiatus. So I'm doing okay.
Yeah, she's here.
I want to understand how you balance this, because I think you spent like a month in Tennessee. Maybe it wasn't that long, but it felt that long. And, with one of our mutual clients, and apparently, Wes takes up golf now. So you're doing that.
Hey.
So I call him Chad. So Wes has an alter ego that I can't wait for you to meet. So he's Wes, like cowboy. But then
he has a cowboy hat, except for the interview. I've never seen without a hat.
Hold on. I have it, but the problem is
it'll keep hitting Jody.
It'll keep hitting Jody.
And, I'm the star, so get out of here. So Wes has this alter ego where he puts on his golf clothes with that hat backwards. It's the hottest thing ever. And I've been telling him for years. I'm like, put your hat on backwards. And he's like, no.
So what she's trying to tell America is that she's having an affair. So
anytime, if anything ever comes out that I'm having an affair, it's literally Wes with a regular hat on backwards, not a cowboy. So when people see him not in like his cowboy clothes,
that's what it is. But yes, to your point, getting on topic, is the entire month of June, I think we were home for a total of 3 days. We were definitely traveling, doing a bunch of stuff. And, I think that there's a myth about work-life balance. I think everybody talks about like, you got to have work-life balance, and it just doesn't happen. I think the trick is that whatever the situation is in front of you, I mean, you've got to have personal balance, meaning, have your own boundaries, your health, all that kind of stuff. But if it's time to work, it's time to work. And then like the month of July, even though Jody's saying like, yes, it's been crazy, we kind of made a family pack. Like, we're going to be home in July because this is one of the most beautiful places in the world to be. So now we just have a lot of people coming to us. So we're not the ones traveling, but it's still busy, but at least we're home. We're, our daughter doesn't live at home anymore. She's out on her own, but our son is still home. We've got the dogs, the horses, the cows, the chickens, all the different things. And so, now we're in that, immersed in that and still doing work and still doing everything that we need to do. But I think that that's one of the biggest, myths in entrepreneurialism is it's like, you hear this all the time, like, oh, work-life balance, you gotta make sure, it just doesn't exist. As an entrepreneur, you're going to have moments in your career that you got to work 24/7 for 30 days straight. And it just is what it is.
That's what I was going to say. It's like, it's feast or famine in the entrepreneurial world. So if like, things are hot, it's like, you got to act on it and do it because you don't know what the next 6 months is going to be. I mean, it's a scary world.
It's funny you say that, Jody, because I look back, an experience I often shares. This was early in my career before I had my company, but the company I worked for, I mean, they had a lot of stuff going at the time and they quit doing business development. Like, they just stopped because they're like, and I remember I was sitting in a meeting and the principal at the time, he was like, I need another job, like a hole in my head. Right. And everyone knows what happened in 2008 and it came crashing down and he had no backlog and it just ended everything. And what's interesting, I do agree. I think work-life balance is kind of a tricky topic. And I think to your point, there's stages of life where different cups have to be filled and you have to, monitor that. But I think what's unique for both of you is, with that said, as you mentioned, you're gone the entire month of June, except for a couple of days. Like, you have clients that are pulling you all over the country that let's be honest, clients are demanding. Like they expect that top-notch first. They want you to be available. How do you balance clients that want your attention, even outside of fitness, health, relationship, family? I mean, you have clients that are pulling you to different destinations and you're trying to balance them just from a business standpoint.
No, that's a great point. And as you said, like your clients don't just disappear while you're with another client, right? It's not like one client is like, oh, I respect that you're with this other client.
Yeah.
And it's not that they're, it's not that they're trying to do anything, but they're excited, right? Like, and I think taking one step back and I know a lot of people who listen to this show understand, what industry we're all in, but I've been an entrepreneur since I was 8 years old. And so I've done a lot of different really cool things, spent majority of my life in marketing and branding and technology development. But this is such a unique industry because you become so intimate with people for a relatively short amount of time in the scope of life, but it's a long period of time in a client relationship. I mean, it's 2 to 3 years. And when I say intimate, I mean like, we know everything about our clients. Like if they have kinks, like we know what their kinks are, man. We know why they want extra support, in the headboard, or we know why they want like a kid's playroom. Like we know everything. And it's such
a unique industry because like the professional and the personal lines cross all the time. Because it's like you have to be professional to get the job and all the things, but then when you're designing someone's home, it's like they want to know like, oh, my kid's favorite color is this is my kid's name, this is their hobbies, this is what they like to do, oh, my husband and I like to do this and this and this, we want to have this in our home. So you take it from professional to super personal, and I don't feel like you can accomplish the interior design world unless you get personal with your clients. So trying to find that balance is super interesting.
No, and it's in, and there's so many elements. So I bring that up to answer your question, is that as you're going through this process, clients are excited, right? Like we may spend a week with one client and pick tiles and go through things and solve problems and go through all the different elements. And we do a lot more than just even interior design. A lot of times we're going all the way down to helping them do their floor layouts and working with the architect, the engineers. I mean, we've got 2-3 projects going with you right now. And we're not just like picking tile. Like it gets pretty insane. So you may spend a week with that client and then you leave and go spend another week, but that client is still excited. They're still saying, oh my gosh, I can't wait for this cool idea you came up with for a lazy, river pool, or I can't wait for this. And so the balance really is being upfront with clients. I think that's something that we're really, strong about, is we never try to tell them like, hey, I don't know how to say this, but we're not like fibbing to them and hiding that we're busy or that we're working with other clients or that we have things going on. We still make them feel incredibly special, but we make sure they understand that we have other incredibly special clients as well. And I think that most of our clients respect that. So it kind of starts with that. They'll be like, okay, I'm with you guys. This is my time with you. And then if I text you or if I communicate with you, you may not get right back to me, but it doesn't mean you're not caring about me. And it starts with that initial conversation. And then we're huge texters, like guaranteed we get off this phone or this interview and there's going to be like 200 text messages that we miss. And that's okay. We love texting, but we do everything in group texts. And so that's another really key element of our organization, is that we have our operations manager, we have our, junior designers, we have everybody in a group text with our client, even the builder in some cases, everybody's in there so that and we kind of tell the client, like, if you're dropping ideas or strategies or concepts, this is where you drop them. We've tried Slack, we've tried all kinds of different apps.
And even email, like so many times, like things happen where I'm working with the wife specifically. And she just wants to text me privately. It was like, oh my gosh, Jody, I was at this place and I found this wallpaper. I was at this store and I found this couch. And so we want to put it in a place that she's not going to send that to me in an email. And I still want to keep it personal, but we have a group chat where it's like, she sends it to this group chat so that we're all on the same like page, even if it's not related to Wes or not related to the architect or not related to certain people, but we're all on the same page and we're seeing these things, and then, I'll respond or whatever. And so then that way we just keep a really tight knit thing, and there's no, oh, you didn't see that she wanted this couch, or like miscommunication.
Or somebody drops, if I'm out golfing, apparently that's backwards hat. backwards hat.
Chad is not in the group chat.
So it just, things don't get missed, right? Like that's a big thing. But I really think it's just setting expectations and having everybody understand, again, not that they're not important, not that it's not something we're excited about, but in that moment, we're focused here. And then just over communicating, as much as we can, whether it's, each of us have our own kind of ritual. Like Jody will make sure at the end of the day that she's caught up on all the text messages, that she's replied to whoever she needs to. Because again, if she's in her creative artistic space and she's in a zone, like that's not the time to communicate, in that moment. And I might be the same way. I mean, I remember, what was it, Saturday or Friday night, we were with a client from 7:00 in the morning until 7:00 at night. So it was like a 12-hour marathon, trying to get everything done, because we have this builder that's like, I need selections and I need them next week. He's got these great foremen.
AFT. Let me
so we're trying to get everything.
We're high maintenance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we're doing a project that is just backwards, as you know. We're doing everything backwards, but it's working. So anyway, the team went in and was having dinner, and I'm out in the parking lot, and I'm on phone call with trades. I'm on phone calls with, different things. We had an issue happen. One of our guys on another project fell through a floor on a remodel. It's just like all these things that happen in our industry. And so everybody manages things differently. And so you just have to be intelligent. You have to look at I look at problems as opportunities, not excuses. We live in a rural area where you don't have cell service. I mean, our hometown population is under like 400 people. So like we don't have cell service. So we travel a lot. I put 20, 30,000 miles on my truck every single year, my personal truck. And so I installed Starlink in it, right? So now I basically have Wi-Fi wherever I have the view of the sky. So I do a lot of different things, catching up while I'm driving. So everyone's life is different. And I think sometimes we make excuses as to like, oh, well, or we make busy like a cool thing to say on Instagram.
Being busy.
And it's like, it's really just setting expectations. It's looking at opportunities, or looking at problems as opportunities, and it's over communicating. And then on the flip side, if Jody and I are going to take a week off, which we haven't yet for a while, but like, it's in the books, like, okay, we're going to go take this time and it's going to be family time. That's when we, have to be upfront about that as well. Like, hey, look, we're going to be gone for this period of time. Direct your questions here and have that. And I think you do that, as well. Like you've got to have the team, which is the next layer of that question, right? Like it's not just the two of us running Loft, like that. And that's something that, we're very, very conscious about, is like build a great team and have a fun culture.
Which is hard to do. I don't want to say you glossed over it, but it was interesting. You were talking about just the organization side. And I'm curious about that only because my experience with both of you is how organized you are. And it's been very complicated, right? And just to set the tone for the audience, we have two projects that are very unique, which is really outside of how you and I really operate our business. So one of them, we have a client that sells the home in the middle of construction, and we're changing the entire architectural design substantially, structurally, footprint, finishes, you name it, the whole thing's changing. We have another project that the client is a major renovation that they're fast tracking before we have design. So both of us are working out of our standard SOP, and we're kind of doing this together. And what's interesting is I've sat in meetings and our team has relayed information right as they've met with both of you. The first example, like you're on the fly working with the architect designing this house, from an architectural standpoint, going through red lines, and you're like, hey, we met, I was with you in that meeting, and then tonight we're gonna get you red lines, and you did that. And then we're fast tracking where you're supplying product and you're working with our trade partners and work with the client through these meetings. It's very complicated. Anyone that's not in the business probably doesn't understand how complicated those two projects are. And I know you have other projects on your plate. So specifically, how are you both organizing where you can put that hat on, to get red lines done and keep this organized while you still have other chaos happening?
Yeah. So
first off, we thrive on chaos. I don't know if that's good or bad.
I think she thrives on chaos.
We literally did a podcast where I was like, people do not give interior designers enough credit. It is as hard as brain surgery. Let me just say, no, but we talked about it. It's like people just think it's like so cute. And it's like, we are firefighters. We're putting out fires every day. It's like you have the way that you're supposed to do it versus what we're doing with these 2 projects with you right now, where it's kind of like things are a little bit backwards, but we're getting it done. And it is, it's crazy. Like, you have to be, even though we thrive on chaos, we thrive on like controlled chaos. We thrive on organized chaos.
Yeah, controlling it. And I think it's funny. I just saw, and again, no offense to anybody, but I just saw a reel, and the designer was like basically putting down designers who don't hand the builder, we call it the design Bible. You don't hand that builder the design Bible before they even break ground. And I'm like, yeah, in a perfect world, it'd be amazing.
Mhm.
Like, the realtor and the designer and the builder and the architect get in a car and we drive around with the client and we buy a lot together. And the builder says, this lot is great. The architect says, oh my gosh, I can work with all the sun patterns. This is going to be amazing. The designer says, oh my gosh, the neighborhood is beautiful. So this is going to be great. And the client buys the land, and we all work together and we build this thing. And the
client says, I'm going to give the designer enough time
to design it. Like,
beforehand.
that sounds like a perfect world. And I've never had that happen. So I mean, I think that the thing that we saw when we came into this space is that, again, like, okay, here's your schedule, right? And it's the paint schedule, and it's printed, and it's 200 pages because there's all these different things. And then, the client's like, you know what? I was in my friend's house and you said Gossamer Vale, and I saw Gossamer Vale in real life and I don't like it. Well, you don't like it because the friend put up like pink wallpaper on the opposite side of the painted wall and it's reflecting pink. It's not the color, but cool. Now you want to change to Gossamer Vale. Now you want it to be, Snow White. Cool. Awesome. Now we have to go change that in all the schedules and do, and I'm, paraphrasing it. So the first thing I said is, why are schedules in paper? That is so inefficient. Like, let's digitize it. So now we have a digital system. Now we have QR codes. Like, as a builder, you scan a QR code and it's a digital schedule. You pull it up. If the client changes something in the background, we push a button and it's instantaneous. So those systems are designed to make our lives easier, the builder's life easier, the client feel more, free to make adjustments and changes. But then that bleeds down into being able to control more chaotic situations. And you're right, we're not a design firm that just like picks everything. We also source everything. We're a dealer. So, we have over 9,000 square feet of retail and warehouse space, and we're growing that. Actually, we'll probably be closer to 12,000 here in a little bit. And it's all, so that we can give our clients not only the best pricing, but I'm more of a product nerd, right? Like, if you're going to do engineered hardwood flooring, which I wish you wouldn't, but let's say you have to, I want to give you the best engineered hardwood floor I can. Instead of 4 millimeter, I want to give you 6 millimeter. I want to give you, instead of 3/4, 5/8. Like, I want you to have the best product. And what we found is that people are making that $9, $10 decision, and they're the third person in line. Even the builder, you're like the third person to get that flooring. I'm like, this makes no sense. How do I make the builder the second person in line? So that, again, everybody needs to make money, but how can I sell you $9 to $10 a square foot flooring that is far superior than what you're getting, at your builder.com or wherever your other relationships are? And that's just one example. We do the same thing for lighting, flooring, furniture, tile. I mean, we don't get into the timber and all that, but we have cladding products, we have roofing products, we have certain types of products that are more specific and use case scenarios. But it's really about that organization, and it started just in the simplicity of, and there's a whole backstory to her and I and Loft and how it all started. But I was on the ranch. I was retired. She was, mom of the year every year. The kids grew up, and now she's like, oh, I'm going to go start this little design business, and I'm like, that's cute. I'm going to rotate cows, have fun, and now.
And then I came home with the money, honey. Yeah. And he was like, wait, what you're doing is not just cute.
Yeah. And there's a whole backstory there. But now I work.
She's the star of the show, so
yeah.
Yeah. He's my employee.
Yeah.
He's doing great.
Yep, I'm great. So I'm hoping I get like a bump. I get a little raise here.
It depends on the day.
So, but again, again, going back to that, looking at the problems I see as an opportunity, create the systems, create the team, have the back end, have all this. So when these, I'm going to say normal situations arise, like I get it. Like, we do have product. We're doing a build in Madison Club right now where it is working out really well, where the client brought us in before the architect, which is awesome. So now we get to walk through with the client and figure out exactly how they want to live in the home. And then we can translate that to the architect. And, so that's going to be a really quote unquote streamlined situation. And they're not breaking ground until next spring. So it's like we have all this time. But I think the two projects that we're working on together, they're pseudo normal, like where people are just saying like, I want this. And up here, we live in a very unique market where June to September is basically our season. And if you're really, really lucky, you can pour a foundation in October. You have to be like super lucky. And so we're in these situations where people are like enjoying the holidays, doing everything, graduating their kids from school. They come up in June and they're like, yeah, we're having a July 4th party and we want our 4,000 square foot, guest house remodeled and done. And it's June 18th. And I'm like, so not that we've ever like gotten something done that quickly, but we've done, 4,000 or 5,000 square foot remodels in 60 days. And you have to, because that's this market up here. And so I think those types of situations have just prepared our systems to do what we're doing down there with you.
But I also think like there's a key element of like, for me, I'm a very creative person. And so like I can walk into a space and clients are like, Jody, what am I going to do with this space? I have no idea. And I like the wheels are turning and I can see a space. It's like visionary. I can see everything that needs to have happen. When it comes to like spreadsheets, that is the death of me. Like spreadsheets, no. You want to talk spreadsheets? And I'm like, all my creative juices are gone. I can't do it. So I think the super important part too is hiring those people, knowing what your weaknesses are, knowing what your strengths are, and hiring the people that will help fill those weaknesses of like we've got Jenna, who's awesome. I call her, she's like my right hand, left hand, kidney, brain. Like she's all the things. And she does all the spreadsheets and she does all the like the behind the scenes and the systems, because without the systems, I can't be creative. Or without the creativity, we can't have the systems that do what they're supposed to do. So I think a super important part is really understanding like, and it doesn't mean you're less than, but it's like my strengths are creative and my strengths are visionary and seeing. My strengths are not the back end systems. And so having those people in place to help you so that it becomes a win-win is massive.
It's interesting. You understand like really the company culture side and how to run a business. And it doesn't just start like from anywhere. I always tell people like you're a business owner that happens to focus in design or construction. You both have a unique background. And I think as entrepreneurs, you've both said this, that there's controlled chaos and you thrive in that because you're an entrepreneur. You're kind of prepared for that. You had businesses before coming into Loft 31. Walk us through maybe that background of running a business outside of the industry and how has that played a role in how quickly you've been able to build your firm and build a reputation, and do what you've done? Because it's not as, I think a lot of us look behind and it's like overnight sensation, 20 years in the making. So it's definitely, there's a lot more years behind it, but you definitely have a lot of understanding of running a business that has helped you excel in yours.
Totally.
Yeah. And there's a whole backstory, but you can go Google it, I guess, like watch my TED Talk, but I had a crazy childhood experience. So I stepped into entrepreneurialism in a survival aspect. I didn't even know what an entrepreneur was probably until like either my really late teens or early 20s. And it was also a different time, right? The 80s wasn't a celebrated time of entrepreneurialism. That was like, you were supposed to get a job. You're supposed to have a career. You're supposed to go to college. Like I feel
like back then the entrepreneurs were almost like the losers that
we were
couldn't have a job.
Yeah.
Couldn't get into college.
You couldn't work for somebody. Yeah.
That's 100%. So it was not a glorified situation. I was not like, I sold my first company in my teen years, and I wasn't celebrated. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, he's the next X, because that just didn't exist. And so, but the field that I dropped into, and what's crazy, and I look back, is like I spent 8 years being apprenticed by a master. I don't even know what his title would be in today's world. He ended up becoming the state inspector for the state of Utah. He oversaw all inspections in construction and development. So he was the head guy in the entire state of Utah. We spent most of the time doing plumbing. And so I spent, my formidable years learning from him, working with him, and not in the most positive ways by any means, but I learned everything about construction, how to do things. And I was running more tech side companies, and trying to build. So I had like a very negative feeling about construction because of his own personal abuse and things that I went through as a child. And so it's just funny how life works, because now I'm in the construction space. Again, we don't quote unquote build, but we work so closely with builders. And so my experience in that space has been so amazing, because I know, like, she'll come up with a creative idea and I'm like, all right, babe, I'm going to bring it back a little bit, because if we put that in front of the builder, he's going to look at you like with cross eyes, like, are you kidding me? Like, you want me to do what? And you want me to do it for what square footage? Like, what's my budget? So
I'm like, listen, I'm the designer, figure it out.
Yeah. It's the epitome of the, I'm the designer, I'm the builder reels that are out there.
Sorry, Bruce.
Sorry, Bruce.
But it comes down to, you look at your past and all of that. So that was one element of why this is so effective inside a Loft. And I'll let Jody tell her side of it here in a second. But on the business side, when I hit my stride, it was in marketing, it was in branding, it was in consulting. And yes, it was tech. I built some of the first websites ever launched. I worked with Google. I did all these crazy things. But really what it was for me is I worked with over 300 different industries. So I remember one day this guy walks in and he's like, I sell fire hydrant parts. And I'm like, what? And he's like, well, I need to figure out how to market to cities and to governors and to, mayors. And because I am one of 3 people in the country that service fire hydrants. And you're like, how often do you have to service a fire hydrant? And he's like, so I learned everything that I don't ever need to know about fire hydrants and the gaskets and the parts and how you and then you had to create a marketing campaign for that. And then the next day Verizon walked in and they're trying to get the college age group to switch over, because if you're a college student and you're coming in from 20 different states to one different college, and you have all these kids that come and they're on their mom and dad's plans, the last thing they want to be is on mom and dad's plans going through college. And again, so Verizon's like, how do we get to the college kids? And so we came up with, probably a lot of people have seen it, the Verizon Madden Tour. So we teamed up with EA Sports and Verizon, and we created these tour buses, and we would go to colleges, and we would do tailgate parties and simulate the game that they were about to play and get everybody in the bus. And then everyone's like, oh, Verizon, like, here's a free phone. So all these different industries that I was able to see on any given day. So when Jody came and Loft was doing what it was doing, I looked at this and I said, okay, how do we disrupt this industry? What's working in this industry? What's not working in this industry? How do we set ourselves apart? What do we do? What's the client experience like to you? What's the culture experience? And we heard a lot of negative about culture in the interior design. Like, how do we make it better? What do we do? We met with a lot of like seasoned interior designers who are now really good friends, who gave Jody a lot of warnings. Like, we have one of our really dear friends who she's had heart issues. She's had to have heart surgery. She had breast cancer, and she had to have a full hysterectomy. And she sat with Jody actually at this table for 3 hours and was like, the stress of this industry is real. One of our other friends had stage 4 breast cancer. She ran one of the most successful design firms in the country, almost 30 years doing it. So I looked at all of this data and I said, okay, how do we make something different? How do we make it a fun experience for the client? How do we make it fun for the builder? Almost every day I heard builders like, oh my gosh, the designer's here. This is going to suck.
For the longest time, anytime I introduced, I was like, I got to figure out how to explain I'm an interior designer without saying I'm an interior designer. Because every single time I introduced myself, it wouldn't matter if it was a builder, if it was an entrepreneur, whoever it was, they like rolled their eyes. So basically you take advantage of people for a living. And I was like,
is that crazy?
No, not at all.
So it was just, and again, these were the extreme cases, but that's what I was looking for. Like, tell me the extreme cases. And then I went and looked at like ones that are crushing it, that are doing amazing. And what's the difference? And I found 2 things that were pretty much always in line everywhere. Is if the culture was not good, then you heard all the negative things. If the systems were, I want to call them, analog, I heard the same thing, and those were the 2 simplest things that I found is analog, outdated systems and bad culture. So you fix the culture and you get, more streamlined, amazing systems. You have something here. We can create something really unique, and it's worked. People are always asking us like, how did you guys take off so fast? Well, we didn't. There were years, like you said, of building this thing that Jody was doing behind the scenes. But then the experience and, my background, her background all kind of came together, pulling the right team, and then just working with the right type of clientele too. We have people come in that we say it's just not a good fit. And it's not a good fit because they're not rich or they don't have enough money or, what people might think. It's just, we kind of look at it and say, if we're not going to be air quotes best friends with you, like it's going to be really hard for us to design for you. And that's no offense to the people it just doesn't work out with, but we have a different approach. Like our text messages to our clients, like there's some fun stuff in there.
A lot of fun stuff.
Yeah. And we come up with fun names. Like every one of our projects has a logo. Like every one of our projects has a name that makes no sense.
Like we make hats and t-shirts for our clients.
Oh, yeah.
It's a whole thing, because this is the thing is most of the time you're with these clients for 2 to 3 years. So it can't just be like, oh, I'm tolerating this person or they're tolerating me. And that's where I feel like you really have to gel with your clients, and they have to gel with me as much as I gel with them. For the most part, I get along very well with most people, but there's a few that come in and I'm like, you know what? My gut's off. It's not going to work. And I feel like when you have those feelings, and my gut has always been something that has driven me my whole life, is like, if I have those feelings, I have to act on it, because I know out of the next year and a half or 2 years, it's going to be the most miserable experience for me and probably them. And we just don't gel. And so I think that's a super important thing. It's just your clients, especially if you're building a new home, you have to have a great relationship with them.
Yeah. And speaking of hats, this is a golf.
Honey, you can't show them this.
I'm going to. This is a golf course house.
So bad.
It's not. It's awesome. So they're on the second hole. They're
Wayne,
They're
you're
on.
Gonna edit this part out.
No, it's fine. They're on the second hole. And the husband is building a man cave that like goes out into like, he's probably going to be like 5 feet, from the course.
You cannot share this,
yeah.
Brad.
Yes.
And he's
no.
And he's
for
like,
you, it's not okay.
And he's like, hey, I want to put like a deer mount,
but I don't want the front half.
He's like, I want the back half, because like, he's like, he was making like a joke about how like golf sucks sometimes. And he's like, I just want to look out there and watch everybody miss this hole. And I'm like, so you're on the second hole? He's like, yeah. And then it became a whole thing. So that's his project name.
So we made them a hat.
So we made them golf hats.
Anyways.
So yeah.
We have so much fun with our clients. And I think that is,
it's not always.
I think that's another huge thing is like, you have to have fun and, connect with them.
And then, for you tell, her side of it on design, I'll let her tell it, but teeing it up is that she's been designing, and sometimes you don't know this. I think that's a part of life that's so exciting, is like, a lot of people, and we do retreats at our ranch, and we work with other designers and other entrepreneurs. We're just getting ready for another retreat. We have one coming up at the end of this month. We bring people here, we disconnect them from their quote unquote reality. A lot of our people who come out here are in the concrete jungle, as I call it. They've never pet a cow. They don't ride horses. So we bring them up here and we get that element going. But then we sit around and we have conversations, and some people aren't living the life they want. They're not doing the job they want. They hate their job. They hate their career. They have this idea. And so many times we do this exercise where we go back into their childhood, and that's where you find like their light, if you will. And it's like, all of us can go back to that time when we were younger and somebody said like, oh, what you're doing, it's never going to make you money, right? Like in my generation, it was like, why do you spend so much time on a computer? Computers are never going to make you money, right? And then now it's like, our kids' generation, our children, they're 19 and 16. And their whole thing was like, don't play video games. You're never going to make money. And then my son's like, look at this guy who just made 150 million playing Fortnite. And I'm like,
now he lives in Bali. I want to do that.
Right.
So we all have that experience. And that was kind of Jody's, experience in design, is she's always been a creative ever since she was younger.
So ever since, I don't know if we're even answering your questions, but we're just going for it.
You are.
Ever since I was young, I've always been a very creative person. I was in like AP art, in high school. I was doing all sorts of different things. I painted murals on library walls. Like it was always that thing. But for me, what's interesting is like I am very creative brained, but I also have to be creative with a purpose. So it was like, I can't be that person that is out in a field barefoot painting the sunset just to paint the sunset. I'm like, what is the purpose of painting this? Am I selling it? Is it for somebody? So I do have a little bit of that like financial, what is the purpose behind it? So my whole life I've been like unknowing, I wanted to be an interior designer. Didn't know what that was back when I was little, but I always was redecorating my room, changing my room. We came from a household that didn't have a lot of money. My parents both worked full time. They had 5 kids. My dad actually ended up like losing his job, and then he had to do, day jobs, night jobs, and it was kind of this holy crap moment. And so we weren't the family that was like, oh, we're going to hire an interior designer and have wallpaper. Mm-hmm. So what I ended up doing was I would go, and my mom would always take me to the art store or whatever, and we'd go and I'd buy like cardstock paper, and I would go and cut out different patterns and flowers and things. And I literally made my own wallpaper out of cardstock paper. And not knowing back then, that was like, oh, you're a creative interior designer. And then I made my own chandeliers out of paper mache. Like I was just a little creative person. But then it got to the point where it's like, oh, you need to grow up and have a real job and be like a dental assistant or a secretary or something that's like safe. Because I grew up in a very like safe household. And so anyways, I just never thrived. I never thrived in school. I never thrived in like a 9 to 5. It was not my thing. And then I remember I had this school teacher where I told her, I was like, I think I want to be an interior designer. And she was like, oh, honey, you have to be good at math. You'll never make it. And I remember like at 16, that was like crushing. I was like, wait, I like look up to you. You're like my person. And I remember just thinking like, oh, maybe I should just go be a secretary for the rest of my life and work 9 to 5 and, do that because I'm not smart. I can't do it. And then ironically, throughout all these years, I've naturally been doing it in our own homes. We've bought and sold different homes. Mm-hmm. We've renovated different homes. We've done different things, used all my creative outlets until the point that we moved up here to Idaho. And we bought homes that people were like, why would you buy that house? Mm-hmm. And then we turn around and fix it. And to me, that's like what I've been doing my whole life. That's what Wes and I have been doing. And so when we would fix it, we had realtors. It was almost like funny because everyone in the town was like, wait, you bought what house? And you made the living room work how? And then people just wanted to come and see it because they had a hard time envisioning how it would be the space it was supposed to be.
I think the longest flip anything on market was 90 days. So anything that we, put together or whatever, if once it went on market, 90 days. And this was pre the craziness that we saw from 2020 to 2024.
And I wasn't like a HGTV watcher either. This was just like me on my own, like, oh, this is cute. Mm-hmm. We should do this, or I have this idea. And so, luckily I have a guy Wes is very good. Like he's very good.
Oh, so glad this is being recorded. Continue on. I'm going to step aside. Keep going.
And he is really good, and he does have a good eye where sometimes I'll be like, ooh, I don't know about that. And he'll be like, no, you need this. This is actually going to be really cool. And then I end up really liking it. So that is what's great is he has the brains and a good eye. Sometimes it's so annoying. But anyways, so we ended up, that's how we kind of got this random start is I had just done homes for friends and family and us. And then people started catching on of like, wait, you did this and you did that? Well, are you an interior designer? And I'm like, oh, no, I'm just a housewife. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just kind of whatever. And then it turned out to be like a real estate agent up here wanted to start working with us and was like, well, can you start staging these homes? And this was like over COVID, and Wes was retired and a rancher, and the kids were having weird school hours. And I was like, sure, like my kids are older. They're grown. Sometimes they leave to go to school at 7 a.m. and they don't get home till 7 p.m. because they've got sports or choir or this or that. So I was trying to find like what fulfills me. And anyway, so I started working for this real estate firm staging homes to sell. And then because I did such a good job, I had clients that were like, wait, who staged this? Who furnished this? I want to hire her to be our interior designer. And then it just kind of like took off from there. So
what's amazing is I think for both of you, not only did it take off, but you have this like passion to continue to grow. You're doing product, right? You've built this from scratch. And you mentioned the relationship you have with your clients. Like it's very unique how you built this relationship. And you mentioned the second hole and you find out, part of it's your personality. But for me, what's interesting about this whole experience is how you've grown it to here because it's just hard for people to realize like what you both have done to get to this point and the amount of work behind the scenes and dedication. And how have you kept, because I know you two are inseparable. And so how are you keeping that balance between each other? Just,
Girl, I want to strangle him every day. So what we say all the time is like to our clients is people get super stressed out and they say like the number one cause of divorce is building a house together
or renovating,
right.
or renovating or moving. And so our slogan is we will get divorced so you don't have to, because I want to divorce him 5 times a day because we literally work together. We are together 24/7.
Yeah,
always.
Yeah,
always.
I think it's rare. I mean, we did have a situation where we had to be in 2 places at once, so we split up. And she went to Florida for a couple of days, and
like
I went
one time. It's so funny.
Yeah, to Arizona, and it is weird. And so again, I mean, there's a lot of other things in that question to unpack, but again, it's over communicating, and it's understanding the business relationship and the personal relationship, and that was not easy. Like no sugarcoating it. Like when we started,
when he talks to me like he's my boss, I'm like, excuse me.
Yeah. So
I'm the boss.
There's no like, anyway, there has to be a clear definition between, and that was as a husband having to listen, and hear her cause again, I think it's easier for men to compartmentalize, and it's like, I can be in business mode and then I can be in fun mode like seconds later. Like it's totally fine. Like, I'm that way with my kids. I can be a dad and then I can be a father. And those are 2 different things, right? And so I looked at it and I thought, oh, we'll come work together and it'll be, quote unquote easy. And it wasn't. It was very difficult because when I came in, it was all about like the systems, the organization, the business, the strategy.
When Wes is in work mode, he's like very short. He's very like, and then as a wife who also still cooks and cleans and does everything in the house while running the business, is I'll be like, honey, what do you want for dinner tonight? And he'll be like, I don't care. And I'm like,
well, please hold. Going back when she was just, doing, and again, not because it's one of the hardest jobs in the world, but when she was raising the family and doing all of that, I would come home from a crazy day and she'd say, what's for dinner? And I'd be like, I really don't care. Like whatever is easiest for you. And that would end up being, you don't care about my feelings. You're not validating what I want in the house. This is my space. Now that we work together and she's, crazy and it's nuts, when the dinner question comes up, she's like, I really don't care. Like whatever.
I get it now.
Yeah. So I wanted to be clear about that. But, to answer the question, it's over communicating and it's been a process and we're pretty open about this in our podcast and talking about it. But it just comes down to, hey, we're in business mode right now. And what happens in this business situation can't transfer into the personal. Now, here's the thing. It does. Like, no matter how much you want to try to like say it doesn't, like if we get in a like install days, those are so fun. They're my favorite time.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
We have our divorce attorney there.
Yeah. Install days. Like we warn the team, we're like, mom and dad are going to fight. It is going to be what it is. Like she's going to get in her head and she's going to be like, this isn't coming together. And I'm like, trust the process. And she's like, don't tell me that. Like, I'll be like, just calm down. Everything's going to be okay.
Tells me to calm down.
So install days are like the best analogy I can give you. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be insane. It's 14-hour days, 18-hour days. Like we did a project where we were doing 25,000 steps a day, installing this house. Like it was insane. We had our whole team going and it was like, she's on one side of the house, it's not working. I'm on the other side of the house. Like, what do you mean you forgot to put blocking behind this? So now I can't hang this art piece. Like, so there's all these things that are happening install days. They're fun. But at the end of it, it's that realization that what happens in these moments is not a reflection of our relationship. It's a reflection of the situation, of the build, of the process, of whatever's going on. And she, as I'll give her a lot of credit, is that she does a really good job of shedding that, of not carrying it into the relationship emotionally. And she has her own support units outside, her friends, her family, people that she can vent to. But then it is prioritizing, like when we are crazy and we're going places, it's like, let's take an hour and go on an extra drive. We do that all the time when we come to Arizona. It's like, go. And it's like, okay, so now what? We're going to go sit, we've had this dinner. Now we're going to go sit in the hotel room and watch TV. No, let's go on an extra drive for an hour and decompress and talk about the emotions of that day and what's happening. And maybe I said something in a meeting that she didn't like, like probably
and
we're going to.
I feel like I've learned to, like, there's a time and a place. Like maybe Wes will say something in a meeting that I'm like, and I can be pissed at him the whole meeting and whatever, but who does that really benefit? I mean, it's just going to make us look bad in the meeting. It's going to make the meeting not go well. So it's kind of like, I'm going to just like hold on to that for later. We'll talk about that later. But it's like you can't, as a husband and wife, it is very hard and it's very interesting, but it's almost just like, you are in business mode. And so we've been really good at, like, we like to do, Wes calls them sexcations. I call them staycations. We do these things where it's like, we really try to go and have him and I time, because it is very hard between like kids and a business and all these things, like,
and a ranch
and like entertaining, and it's crazy all the time. So it's hard to just like talk, him and I. And most of the time, we'll go and it'll be like, oh, we're talking about this client or this thing. And then it's like, all right, now let's get intimate. It's like, that's the last thing on my mind. Like, I can't get intimate because I have all these other things going on. And so we kind of created this thing, where it was like, there for a while we were really good, but it's been hard because we've been busy. But it was like once a month we would go somewhere for a weekend, and it had to be somewhere, we don't fly there, it has to be drivable. So it would be like 2 or 3 hours away. And the reason for that is I want to go on a 2 or 3 hour drive where Wes can't be on his phone, I can't be on our phone. Hopefully we don't have cell phone service. And for me, as a woman, have to
turn off the Starlink now.
I can't just like be in business mode and then be in like intimate mode. I have to kind of have this like coming off of it and feeling, because it is hard, because it's like I'm a mom and I'm a business partner, but you kind of want to be like the girlfriend again. And it's hard to be the girlfriend when you're balancing all these other things. And so I have to like have this connecting where I'm like, okay, we've got 2 hours on this 2 hour drive. Let's connect. Let's have a thing. So by the time we get to the hotel room, I'm like, emotionally, I feel connected to you. We're not talking business. It's him and I. And then we can go and have like a fun weekend and do that. And so I think that that's super important. I think date night for people is awesome. For us, it'll never work.
No.
It'll never work, because we can't be like, oh, every Tuesday night we're going to have dinner at a restaurant. Like, that'll never work. And for me, as a mom and, business partner, my brain won't shut off. I need like that 2 hour drive of just like, okay, we're going somewhere. I can turn off my phone. Not like, okay, we just had dinner and dessert and now I've got 10 minutes before I've got to like be ready. And it just doesn't work that way. I can't shut my brain off. So I think you have to find, as a couple, what works for you and what works for both of you. Not just like, for Wes, he could do date night easy breezy. For me, I can't. So what can we do as a couple to like strengthen our us time while we're business partners and parents and together 24/7.
And I think even whether you're a married partnership or you're not, you're in a partnership, you have to have some honest conversations about what you're good at, what you're not good at, respecting that, and then also calling each other to the carpet sometimes when you're not performing at the business's needed level. And we've both done that. She'll be like, Wes, you're just being too, not aggressive, but like you're being too stern with the client, or you're being too like, you're not explaining what needs to be explained, or whatever it may be. Because sometimes I'll get into it and I'm like, oh yeah, so we'll just do this flashing, we'll make this happen. And they're like, what? They look at me like, what did you just say? And I'm like, oh yeah, I got to remember, we got to bring it into the terms that maybe this is the first house they've ever built, or, whatever. So, and then vice versa, I'll look at her and I'll be like, you're not pushing yourself hard enough. Like, that's, cute. You did a lighted, vanity wall. Like, please, can we do something different? And it's just understanding to push each other, but then also celebrating, your unique differences. And then for us, it's allowing each other into each other's space. Like, you brought up this project, and I remember like this moment very clearly. Is we're designing this space, doing this remodel. It's very complicated what the homeowner wanted and what the squareness of this house gave us. Like, there's not a lot of space for curves, we'll put it that way. And they wanted a very specific thing with their mudroom, laundry room, and kitchen. And in a new build, we could have given it to them easy. In this build, it was like, oh my gosh, you're asking for a miracle. And I remember being, we spent weeks with the architect. We got everything figured out. The client approved it. We're done. Like, we're at the final meeting. Your team is sitting there. We're ready to go. And Jody looks at the house, the floor plans, and she's like, why is there no wall between the butler's pantry and the laundry room? And I'm like, I don't know. It's fine. Like, the clients approved it. This is what the architect liked. And she's like, who the heck wants to smell like dirty socks while you're cutting, cake? And I was like, oh no, nobody thought of that. And so it's a very simple thing, but I bring that up as an example, is that sometimes I cross into the design and I'm like, ooh, try this, or let's push this. And she crosses into the build process, or she crosses into, wait a minute, why are we putting that pipe there? What are we doing here? And again, I know I'm just simplifying it, but it's this understanding that I have unique gifts, she has unique gifts, but we're going to cross into each other's gifts. And it's not an ego, it's not a challenge. And I see that, not just in married couples, but I've seen that in my whole career. Like business partners are like, well, this was my idea. Or like, why are you stepping on my toes? Like, I run this part of the business. Like, how dare you? And I mean, if you did that in a married aspect, like your marriage would not last. But I've never seen a business partnership last either.
We used to be very competitive on certain elements. And so I feel like 100%. You have to kind of drop that. And he has his lane, I have mine, but also like,
we're going to weave into each other's lanes. Yeah. Swerve, weave, whatever. Just no head-on collisions. We'll be fine.
Sometimes we get in those.
Well, I think you made some points that I think I've never heard anyone say, especially whether you're a business partner or a working couple, such as yourself. And you mentioned, like, and you said this, Jody, that it's very intentional, whether it's a staycation or a 2-hour drive. I mean, you have to take that hat off and pivot. And so really, to me, this is like, there's this huge level of like how we've kind of gotten to this point of really how you understand company culture and how you understand your relationship and how you understand how to do the product side. And one thing I'll give you credit to, I remember Wes was texting me when I first met you both. He may not remember this, but he's like, hey, I'm doing this remodel. I don't know if it's a remodel or it's a renovation. And he was asking me about a detail in the basement, like a building science detail. And was interesting. I'm like, this is an interior designer who's looking at building science and construction. And so my point is, you both have really pursued an education for what I do, and that's going to help you be successful. You've tried to understand what the architect does. You try to understand the product side. You're trying to understand the business side, the company culture. And then at the core, our relationship is most important. And so we're together all the time, but how do we make time for the romantic side and the business side, and that those two don't intermingle too much, so that we can make sure that we're still going to be, on the right side of this after install day.
100%. And you bring up something that has really served my whole life, and I didn't realize it was a superpower, honestly, till probably 10, 15 years ago. And Jody calls it sponging, but
Wes is so annoying. You tell me something and I'll be like, I'll study it for 20 years. And then the 21st year, they'll be like, what'd you study? And I'll be like, I don't know. Or Wes is like, he learned something one time and he's a sponge and he holds it on forever. My brain is just full of the most useless facts and rap music. And his brain is full of like very smart things.
No, but thank you. I love you. But I
He's
look
the
at
yin to my yang, for sure.
I look at it as A, I don't know everything. B, I don't want to know everything. But C, I want to learn as much as I can. And so, I didn't remember, but I do remember bringing that to your attention. And I brought it to a couple of people because it was a challenge I've never experienced. Like, I still don't agree with the project because it's a floodplain, a basement. I mean, I had to go all the way up to freaking the government to pull them out of floodplains, redo everything. And I'm like, you guys are just like playing with fire, but okay, if you're going to play with fire, I'm going to give you as much fire retardant, material as possible. But just know you could still be burned, AKA flooded. And so, we were building this like insanely engineered solution with all of these, redundant plans. If this failed, this would help, whatever, water mitigation, insulation, all these different things. So it's constantly learning. And we take that into product, because here's the thing is like, I love that we can make the three of us here at this, on this podcast, we can make things beautiful, but can it be beautiful in 5 years after the family's lived in it? Like, that's my pet peeve is like, I don't want to build something for Instagram. I want to build something that in 10 years, the family resells and the person that walks into that house goes, wow, like this is amazing to me. Like, they might put their own flair to it, but I miss the days when you're like, what is that hutch in the corner? Oh, it's my great grandfather's that he brought over from, London, whatever, when he came into this country. Like, we don't have that anymore. And it isn't that it doesn't exist. Like, there are some incredible craftsmen, but I feel that sometimes we just get lazy and we're like, well, here's the $3 solution. And it's like, well, here's the $4.25 solution that's actually the long-term solution. And so I geek out on product, right? Like Jody's like, I want this to look amazing, and here's what we're trying to accomplish.
I want white oak, and Wes will be like, it's this thick. It was made from this tree. Da, da, da. I'm like snoring. I'm like, cool. I don't care. I just want the floor.
But it leads us to finding really cool products. Like we have an incredible product that we're dealers of called Millboard. And if you want that burnt cedar look, or you want that white oak planking, around your tub, or around your pool, or if you want, or your tub, interior, or if you want something crazy, or you live in the mountains and you want to put, cedar shakes on and you want it to look amazing. And I'm like, cedar shakes are going to increase your insurance premium by 70%. You're going to have to maintain them every 3 to 5 years. Like this bug loves to eat cedar, like whatever it is. So we found a product that looks like all of these things, but it's a 50-year solution. It's fire retardant. Bugs don't eat it. It doesn't fade. It doesn't do any of these things. Your insurance actually goes down by putting it on. It has an R2 value. It's like all these different things. And it's like, cool. It's easier to install for the contractor. It's a no-show invisible install. Like, so the homeowner has this product that looks like, something out of a magazine, but also like, let your dogs run on it. Let your kids, live on it. Like, it's not going to deteriorate. It's not going to have problems, 6 months from now. And so those things have all happened because we both listen. And it's like, we're listening to the client, we listen to the builder, we listen to the reps. And then we get multiple opinions and figure it out so that the end result is a beautiful product that's sustainable and is going to last the client. And they're educated as to why they made that decision. Like, you're going to spend a little bit more right now, but you're going to spend so much less, down the line.
And I think too, like for us, and we've even seen it firsthand, is like, for me, kind of always been told like, oh, you're not smart enough. You won't know how to do this. Like, you didn't go to school for this. Like,
right.
To school for this. It was all these things. So I kind of naturally feel like I'm behind the curve. And then when people come to you, and we actually had this amazing woman who literally like came into our store, and she was an interior designer. She's done insane stuff in Beverly Hills. And she was like, Jody, your eye is insane.
It's really good.
Like, what are you doing here? What are you doing there? What's your systems? What's that? And she kind of like she called me to be like, let's go to lunch. And I was like, cute, here's a new friend, like not even thinking. And then we go to lunch, and she's like grilling me. I mean, it was like I was being interviewed for a mass murder. And I was like, I don't know any of these things. And so I kind of felt like, oh, like, I don't know. And then I was like, Wes, you got to meet her. Like, she's great. But what I could have done is gone one of two ways with that. Is I could have been like, well, she was just grilling me and she made me feel a certain way, and I don't want to be part of that because it made me feel less than. But instead what we did was, okay, she has so much knowledge. I feel like we can really learn from her. And I feel like it doesn't matter if you're in the industry for a year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 40 years. There's always somebody that's going to know something that you don't know. There's always like, the experience alone is awesome, but there are people out there that they may drop nuggets that change your whole system. And so for us, it was kind of one of those things. And we've unfortunately worked with people who don't know as much. And anytime you try to give them advice, they really push back, and they're like, we know what we're doing. We know what we're doing. And I think I don't think that's a benefit to them. I think everyone could learn something from each other. And when you push back instead of hearing them, I mean, for us, that was a game changer with her.
100%. So I think, I tell all young entrepreneurs this, and even, seasoned entrepreneurs, like, you're going to learn more from listening than talking. And that's okay. And then there'll be a time for you to talk. I remember we were in North Carolina, and you were there, and you were giving, you were doing a panel, and you were answering questions, you were doing your thing. And afterwards, like, you called us out a couple of times, It
was so cute. We were like nice. Brad's groupies.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was really nice, but obviously, because of your notoriety and your expertise, by calling us out in that moment, a couple of the designers that were in the room came to us and were like, oh, I was going to ask Brad this, but the line's too long and I've got to go to the next session. And we were like, oh, well, here's our experience and here's what you could do. And even in that moment, we were able to give some feedback and give things because of feedback that we had received, years later. So I think again, that's why I say, like, listen, and then there'll be your time to talk, is that sometimes you just need to listen. And we've learned from other designers, we've learned from builders, we've learned from all kinds of we've learned from clients. We have some clients who've built like 7 homes, and they'll be like, well, we tried this in this home and it didn't work. And we're like, oh, it's okay. It's worked for these other clients, but it didn't work for you. Well, it didn't work for us because our kids, like to reenact like Coyote Ugly bar scenes on our kitchen counters. And we're like, oh, okay, well, that's why this counter wouldn't work for you. So it's just, again, I think it's
being open to understanding that you don't know everything. Nobody knows everything, and being open to allowing people to teach you something new versus getting this cocky attitude of like, well, I'm the best in the business. I don't even know anything else.
Well, I love that. What's interesting is I agree. I mean, I don't think you give yourself enough credit for being a sponge, Jody, because for you to come in and like whether you can see products in your mind or whether you can know the different vendors and, especially as you now represent brands and products and then, design and as you travel, like it's just all of us have a different way of things that like we retain and things we don't. And it's fine. But your point being is that, at the core of this, I've been to conferences and maybe you go to a conference or a networking event, or maybe to your point, you're working with another designer, I'm with another builder, and there may only be one nugget, maybe 2, maybe 3, but there's always these little things that come up, either like in the podcast today, as I'm interviewing you both, or in conversation with clients, as to your point, if you're listening and taking note, you continue to refine that. And maybe it's because I remember as a kid and I remember being a teenager thinking my dad didn't know anything, or my mom. And then you become older and you're like, they actually knew a lot, because it's these little nuggets and life experiences they have had. You're like, okay, there's a process here. And a lot of us try to get through the process too fast, or maybe we discard people without realizing, there's things that they could bring to that relationship that are very beneficial. If we're listening.
100%. And again, that goes back even like we were talking about in our relationship and partnership, is like understanding your strengths and weaknesses. Like we're at the point now, we have people come to us all the time. We actually turned down a really cool project in a neighboring state because the owner just would not listen to us about, if you want to have, and again, if you're just building a spec house, like more power to you. I have my whole feelings about spec houses and trash builds, but that's for another day. But like if you're putting in millions, right? If you're above 2-3 million building a house anywhere in this country, like I don't care where it is, if you're over 2.5 million, you're building a pretty nice freaking house. And so if you're in that level and you don't have an architect, a very seasoned and respected builder, and I don't care if they're cost plus, I don't care if they're, they're a fixed bid, I don't care what their practice is, but they have a track record, right? I always push people like cost plus is your best model because you know what you're getting into, and everybody's being very upfront, where a fixed cost can get you into some problems unless, they've fixed cost off of every selection and everything's already pre-done. But anyway, like if you don't have an incredible architect, a seasoned builder, and, you don't gel with the designer. So for us, if people come to us and say, hey, we want to cut corners, or, hey, we want you to step in. Like I have people all the time like, well, Wes, you just GC this product. I have my GC license in 2 different states. And so it's like, I could GC. I don't want to GC. I just have that license there so that we can utilize it for different things that we're working on, but not necessarily to, start the business and do that. But I look at it and I say, we're at the point now where it's like, if a builder doesn't understand how important a designer is, if a designer doesn't understand how important an architect is, if the architect has an ego and doesn't understand that the designer may bring something that the architect's not thinking about, or the builder may bring up a problem that the architect thinks can be solved and could be solved, but you're pushing some boundaries, whether it's the dirt, whether it's the engineering, whether it's the civil, like it's so important to have all 3 of those people functioning and understanding each other's gifts. And I remember you did a podcast almost maybe a year or 2 years ago where you literally said you won't build a house without a seasoned interior designer. And everyone's like, oh my gosh, and I'm like, but at the same time, like we should all be in that space. Because it only hurts the industry. We talk about all these like, and I've been in those rooms. When Jody said that, I'm like, oh, come on. But I've been in the rooms. Like I've been at dinner and somebody will introduce Jody as an interior designer, and that person that we're being introduced to is like, cool. And it's like,
so tough.
Like, Yeah, she has the plague or something. And I've seen that with builders too. And I look at it and it's like, okay, well then the industry's doing something wrong. And I've seen what the industry's doing wrong. And it's sometimes people stepping in lanes they shouldn't be in because their ego or because they're looking for a quick buck. And it's like, look, the builder may have an incredible wife who has a great eye, but she's a decorator, because interior design is not decorating.
Very different, right?
It's very different. And we have a builder, a mutual builder friend, you and I do, who's working on a project right now where the investor let the wife kind of do more than she should, and it's killing them. And it's going to end up putting, $2 to $3 million. We have a project up here. Total build cost is $2.4 million, and they have $450,000 of mistakes. That's a huge percentage of the build that's mistakes because they didn't have an architect and a designer, and so an interior designer. So I look at this whole thing and this conversation about the sponge and the relationship and all of it, like, could theme this podcast is like, know your lane and don't have an ego about not understanding everything, but also be willing to learn things that aren't in your lane, so it makes your lane stronger. Yeah. But not so you can go in someone else's lane. I hope that makes any sense at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think it's hard too, because I feel like you're the last one thrown into the triangle of builders and architects, and designers, and you're the last one to get into that group. But I think if it is we love working with your team, and there's so many architects and builders that we love, that if we have first pick, we're we know exactly who we want, like Red Rover, send AFT right over. And so there's so many of those that we're like, okay, great, because I feel like having a client that you gel with, but then the builder, architect, designers that gel, it's the dream team. Yeah. It's going to make everything great, because listen, there's going to be days that you're all just getting hammered and it's a mess and it's crazy and we're putting out fires, but we're doing it together. We're not lighting each other on fire. And I think there's a lot of people that do that, and then it just creates pure chaos.
Yeah, we did a big build last year. We finished it, and we were able to go to dinner with the builder and his wife and have conversations and support each other and be there, through some pretty, insane fires. And so that goes back to what we talked about earlier, relationships. On Friday, we're flying up an architect that we're mutually working with AFT, and we're flying them up here, and they're coming here not only to build that relationship, but we have a client here who's been burned, and we're like, we know an architect that can solve this problem, So I wish I could, fly builders around the country, but it's a little more complicated. But it really comes down to building those relationships and having the culture and having the experience and all the stuff we've talked about in today's episode.
It's amazing. You guys are incredible. I think I could speak to you for 3 hours. So
I know. I feel like we have.
I know. It never goes as fast, and I try to keep it, at an hour, to be conscious of your time. We're way past that, but we're going to have you back on, because I think I had 20 questions and we got to 0 of them. So that's great.
Oh no, sorry.
And we're the worst because we go off on tangents, but
no. That's the whole point, is it should be that way. It's that's really the whole context, is that there's so much value offered and there's so much more to share. And you both have so much experience from your past. And I know, just to touch on that, I had dinner with you both in North Carolina at High Point, and I loved it. It's funny how even those little touch points, I felt like we were connected even more, and just hearing each other's story and similarities. Life's a crazy place. And so it's fun to be able to your point, this is what you're both really good at, is you can intermingle personal with business. And it's a rare trait. Very few people can do that. And the ones that can, it definitely is in my opinion, why you both have excelled in what you do.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Oh, and that's, again, I look at this industry as there's so much space for disruption, which is fun. As a builder, you're growing because you're disrupting some things that are status quo. We're growing because we're doing the same thing. And I just had a mutual designer that we all know, and they're doing a big house with you. And I'm like, well, who's doing your flooring? And she's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, where are you getting your flooring from? She's like, I don't know. That's AFT. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'll call Brad. Yeah. And she's like, why? And I'm like, we sell flooring. And she's like, but I'm like, I don't care. You can design it. You can just buy your product through us. And I
get a better product.
Yeah. And she's like, oh, we should go to dinner. I didn't know that. And I'm like, I don't care if you design it. I don't care if we design it. I mean, at the end of the day, like, I want to give you the same experience. Like, we're not like, oh, this is ours, right? Like,
well, and making it a win-win, because I
Yeah.
do feel like it is a very competitive
space. Yeah.
It's kind of like fashion and design and all these things, and it gets very like, well, this is mine and I don't want to. And we're very open to, like, we want to be friends with the designers, we want to be friends with the builders, we want to be friends with all these people, and just make it a win-win, because there's so much opportunity for everybody.
Yeah. And again, just learning more and more about the industry. So it's been an incredible ride with the projects we're doing together. You know, can't wait to get them done.
You guys have spoiled us. Let me
Yeah. It's a lot of fun. You got a great culture.
Yes.
One of your guys,
your team.
One of your guys actually, he messaged me last night. You know, on a personal level, he's wanting to, you know, move his life forward, his beautiful family. And, you know, so he's showing me these lots and all this stuff. I'm like, let's build, bro. Like, let's get it done. And he's like, I'm so excited. He's like, I got to talk to Brad. I want to figure this out. And then he's like, Brad's the best boss. Like, I love where I work. And I'm like, it wasn't, you know, thrown out. And it's just a statement of like building that culture and having people, you know, feel supported and feel appreciated and feel loved and feel valued.
And I think that's what you do very well, is you are so good at making people feel important, whether they're designers you work with, architects, your employees, I mean, strangers on the street. Like, you guys do a great job at doing that.
Yeah. So super important. So
we kind of like you, I guess.
Well, the feeling's mutual. You guys are incredible. And I can't thank you enough for coming on. And for those listening, how can they find you?
Best thing to do is Loft 31. So all spelled out. Everything's that. Instagram, Facebook. Facebook's kind of weird. We don't do much on there, but Instagram. Apparently my kids are saying we got to start a TikTok, so we'll be doing that.
And then start dancing.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. And then our website as well, which we're obviously you know, constantly building and evaluating. But yeah, that's the easiest way.
Well, you both are incredible. Wes and Jody, thank you.
Thank you.
If you get value from the show, please support us by giving a 5-star rating and review on whatever platform you listen to. And I also have a favor to ask. We've had some incredible guests that come on and share their wisdom, their knowledge about their business. So if you have friends or family members that could benefit from those episodes, please share it with them, as well as any other business owners that you're networking with that could get value from the podcast or certain episodes. Please share those as well. Again, subscribe, make sure you're following. Any questions that you have, topics. We've had listeners reach out about certain guests that we should have on the show. Again, brad.l@aftconstruction.com. Email me for topics to address, guests that we should have on, and even if you think you'd be a great guest for the show. So again, thank you for all your support, and we'll see you next time.